Morning at NTV, we are live from Kampala Serena Conference Center. I'm Andrew Chamagero Muntuawansi, and it's just 15 minutes past 8 a.m. Elections already started at the different polling stations, but I understand it's still peaceful. Those who are not wearing masks and they don't have sanitizers, I want to tell you that COVID is real and COVID kills. I still want you to be alive, so make sure you have your mask on the face at the soft spots. Not only that, practice social distancing as much as you can. Do the due diligence. It always starts with you and spreads to the others. Now, today various Ugandans are choosing their local leaders, and unknown to most people, these leaders actually get to decide if you have good roads or not. So, to speak to us about this and more, we have Sarah Birete, the Executive Director of the Center for Constitutional Governance, and Silas Anguzu, a local leader in Kawempe Division. Good morning.
Morning.
Good morning.
First, Sarah is usually my counterpart in here. Good to have you, Silas, here.
A pleasure to have you.
How are you holding up? How is Kawempe doing?
Kawempe, it has been a very rough ride. We are done with the elections. Not so happy about the results.
Why?
Of course, we lost. It's disappointing that we were not considered for the seat of Member of Parliament. However, the problem still exists, and I don't want to spoil the party for the Member of Parliament elect because he has a challenge up his sleeves, and we pray that he can be able to deliver on the promises.
That is Mbazira?
Absolutely,
Okay.
yes, he's the one who won the seat.
When you say you lost, what do you mean by that?
Well, we did not, we are not the winners in the parliamentary race.
Okay.
And I thought it was a loss also for the ideas that we support, or the ideas that we have been presenting to the people. The scale of the problems that we have in Kawempe South are on such a level that we require a partnership with government, because you cannot do it as a Member of Parliament.
Yes.
And right now the situation we're seeing is that of a lame duck, where we have these members of Parliament who are in opposition and completely opposed to the government, and on the other hand we have the government, which is supposed to be a partner, clearly going to frustrate all their efforts.
Okay.
So
from where you started, did you do enough effort to make sure that the disappointment you have is directly proportional to what you expected in one way or the other?
well, we did the most we can, but if you can look at the way the previous year has passed, we were facing COVID-19. Many people were starving to death. The problems were beyond imagination. People were provided 6 kilograms of posho for 3 months. And so there was just no chance we stood when the wave came, because the anger was, it was extremely high.
I feel you. Sarah Birete, today we have a second cycle of the elections. But Ugandans are not most interested in this kind of election. They were so vibrant during the parliamentary and the presidential election. What do you make of that from your perspective?
Well, that's normally the case. People are normally interested, specifically in the presidents and MPs.
Okay.
But also the interest is more for the presidency. So the local council elections, I know there was a discussion in Parliament and even an amendment to say elections should be held on the same day to the extent possible. We have not had these elections held on the same day. Maybe it becomes too much for the voter, because there were proposals that even voting can happen in 2 days. Because if you consider, people voted for the president, area MP, and woman MP. So if you add the local council elections, then you add the LC5 chairman, mayors, and councillors. So the list becomes too much for a voter, and you find maybe you're ticking about 15 people. You have to vote for about 15 people once you get to the polling station. So among the proposals during the debate for reforms, we had even said we can vote for 2 days, because there are countries that vote for 2 days.
And they're done.
Yes. So it could improve and have the same voter turn-up for the elections, but also save money, because if you hold national elections, presidential and parliamentary, you almost use the same money to distribute materials and everything, and polling assistants, then allowances, because the Electoral Commission is now doing a second round of the exercise. So the staffs work for the same day, same time, allowances. So we said If the elections were combined, it would even save us money, but also reduce voter fatigue. Because if you look at the outcome of elections, is everybody happy? Those who have lost confidence in elections in this country, those people who have their leader, the 3.5 million that have their leader under siege, assuming that that's what he scored. You know, how do they feel? Where do they get the morale to go and vote? To go and vote, yes. People who had complaints on the manner in which Electoral Commission announced results, because the law, the Electoral Commission Act, under Section 56, says the Electoral Commission should receive full district results. Then you had, you know, the chairman of the Electoral Commission announcing polling stations. And as we find out later, polling stations nearing the commission itself were left out. So if you have received full district results as mandated under Section 56 of the Electoral Commission Act and then the Presidential Elections Act, where do you get to say in Wakso, let me leave out 271 polling stations. In Kampala, let me leave out 51. How? Okay. Yes, so that alone, you know, takes away, yes.
Okay. My colleague Herbert Ziwa happens to be in Mengo, and we want to understand what is happening. We're talking about the low turnout of the voters on in the second cycle of elections. Herbert Ziwa, what is in the location where you are? How big is the security and the people observing the SOPs?
Thank you very much, Andrew Chamagero, and the viewers wherever you're watching from. We're here at the former Ame Shop polling station, just adjacent to the fence of Lubiri Bulange Mengo, and it's a polling station that has about 1,070 voters. It has just opened a few minutes ago. People have started voting, and so far I would say less than 10 people have voted, and as you can see, out of the 1,000, you would see that the queue is not so long. That means probably the voter turnout is likely to be not as expected. Surprisingly here also, I've not seen any of the agents of those standing for the position of the Lord Mayor, apart from the agents of those standing for the position of Councillor or Lord Councillor. We've not seen any of the agents of those standing for the Lord Mayorship. Another outstanding thing here is that the voter verification machine is yet to operate, is yet to work. And one of the officials of the Electoral Commission is trying to sort it out. And he said a few minutes ago that this machine takes over 30 minutes to power or to start working. So he's still fidgeting with the machine. I think now it has started working. But the first the first voters, the machine was not working. This polling station is just near the road, as you could see. A few people are have come with the masks, but they are not putting them on. And given the fact that this polling station is also located in a very small place, it is also hard to observe the social distancing. As you could see, the agents of the candidates, most of them are not socially distanced. I would want to speak to one of the agents and see whether how the exercise is going. Sebo wasuzotia. Polling station eno yakatandika akalulu kalina kutandika saawa muzigenda musaawa 2 dakiika nga 20. Olowooza lwaki mutandise kikerezo okulonda?
Okay, engeri gyendamu kirabika abantu abasinga pressure yali ku kaluka bwa president. Naye kuba lutava mu kaluka bwa president ndowooza abantu kati bali mirimo gyabwe okusinga. So kati bakajumbidde mu nnyonga akasooka kuba luli zagenda kubeera ssaawa mu ng'abantu bayingidde dda mu polling station nga bali ready okulonda. Naye ku luno abantu baliwo bamuswaba, baliwo batonotono. Kyekyo ssebo.
Sebo kwe candidate woyani era exercise ogirabye otya?
Candidate wange ye Namboze Anet. Era okulonda nda okutambula bulungi.
Those are some of the agents of the candidates in the race for Lord Mayorship, I mean for the Lord Councillors. But I also wanted to speak to some of the voters. But as you can see already the line is empty. We only have maybe one voter remaining on the line, and this explains maybe the low turnout that is expected. As one of the agents has said that in the presidential elections, the lines were very long. People were in the lines as early as 6 a.m. But right now, the polling station has just opened. A few minutes ago, the voters who were on the line have finished voting, and the line is almost empty. That shows you that maybe probably a few people are likely to turn up today to vote for the Lord Mayor of Kampala and the respective Lord Councillors to go at City Hall and represent the people of Lubaga. So Chamagero, I want to return to you as we also go to another location with my colleague Josephine Nachibule to continue giving you updates of what is happening as the people and the voters of Kampala, 1.2 million voters of Kampala, decide who is going to be the next leader in the 1,422 polling stations spread across the 5 divisions. Back to you, Chamagero.
Habadzua, before you go, have you tried to ask the Electoral Commission why we don't have a hand-washing point there in relation to the COVID-19? Because these were dispersed. It's part of their budget.
We've not had an explanation as why we are not having the washing point, but there was one of the officials who was trying to move around with the sanitizer, trying to ensure that everyone who comes here is sanitized. But I think the focus of the officials from the Electoral Commission is on the exercise itself, is on ensuring that the machines are working, is on ensuring that whoever votes is on the register, and also ensuring that the security of this area is maintained. I've also seen only two police officers here, and that means that maybe also the deployment is not as extensive as it were in the presidential elections.
Thank you so much, Habadzua, with that is Jocelyn Nachibule. They will be giving us more details as they go around the country, rather the divisions of Kampala. Soon later, we'll be telling you what is happening. Coming back to you, Silas, there is something Sarah Bilete has alluded to, voting in 2 days. Imagine someone who had traveled to Mitoma to vote, and they traveled back to Kampala to go back to business as usual. Now here they have to vote LC5 and the different mayors in the different regions. Could this make sense to you as a leader from Kawempe?
I don't think that makes sense. We should, in my view, have a marathon and get done with the whole exercise in 1 or 2 days. Because indeed there's voter frustration. If your candidate lost, you would not be too excited to go back again and vote. At least we have now understood where the powers are. So I think there's also that fatigue that is existing. So I really don't agree with the splitting up these voting days over a period of a month. It's a bit not...
Okay.
So,
earlier on, you alluded to something to do with service delivery. To be specific, you talked about roads and all that in Kawempe division. So service delivery was one of the key factors that possibly could have cost you an election. How important and how cardinal was it with regards to the electorates, and what can be done to fix that?
Yeah, in a place like Boise, you would be hard-pressed to point out substantial government projects that are being carried out for the people. Apart from the northern bypass and the construction of the rehabilitation of the drainage, of the Nakamiro drainage and Lubiji, there is nothing to speak of in Boise for the last 35 years. And yet we are seeing hostels rising up in Katanga. A hostel is a high-capacity building. You cannot put a hostel in a slum. A slum, by definition, does not have any services in it. Right. So the result is that all these big hostels and big buildings are pouring all their sewage down to Makerere and into Boise, and people are sleeping in sewage. Number two, the northern bypass created such a problem with the water flow that most of the houses are now inundated by flooding. Oh. In fact, almost half of the buildings in Makerere, Boise 2, Chisalo-Salo are abandoned.
The drainage systems are bad there. The flooding...
Every time it rains, it floods. And the buildings, the silting has made the soil to rise to up to window sill level. Oh. And that means half of the buildings have been abandoned, and nobody is talking about this problem.
Do you feel in one way or the other that government has intentionally done this to Boise or to Kawempe because it's an opposition stronghold in one way or the other?
In fact, that is the general feeling, that government is out to punish Kawempe.
Oh.
Yes, because it has been voting traditionally opposition. But however, we feel that is not the solution, because now the result is the militarization of the youth. And government, instead of dealing with the causal problems, that is lack of service delivery, they are now putting in the military militarizing the whole political situation. In fact, if you look at the whole of 2021, during COVID-19, during even after when the political process was opening up, we are seeing that the whole atmosphere has been so tense. We are not allowed to move. We are almost in lockdown situation. So how can we have a political process?
Sarah Bidete, when you hear what Anguzu Silas is talking, he sounds as you know, a very bitter leader from Kawempe, and he feels government has intentionally sidelined and marginalized Kawempe because it's an opposition stronghold. How do we bridge the gaps? How do we bridge the two opposition with the ruling government? The president yesterday alluded that he wants to work with those in opposition to make sure that Ugandans have a level ground.
Yeah, but maybe I'll start with the president's speech on Saturday after...
It was a bitter speech. Did you watch it?
After announcing of results.
Yes.
I hope that the NRM party and the president will prepare another victory speech, because that was not a victory. That was not a victory speech. You cannot be a victor and be angry to that extent and attack people on the basis of how they voted, because he clearly attacked Uganda, clearly attacked the Catholic Church. He was bitter with his competitors, as if they shouldn't have competed with him. Then what's the purpose of elections? Really, an angry speech cannot be a victor's speech. So I thought that was a terrible speech for the occasion. And we have on several, you know, different events seen the president saying, there's a time there was a very bad road in Waxo, and the former chairman, engineer, one time was
there was the Masaja route.
Yes, by protesters. So he went there and said the reason they have bad roads is because they vote badly. So when you look at such comments, and he has made them over time, you vote badly, you will not get services. Service delivery is a sole function of the executive. So once you are in government and you think you will only serve people who support you, then you're not fit to be in government. Once you are elected a president, you are president for everybody, including those who stood against you, including those who voted against you. So once you say you will not get services, you have bad roads, you vote badly, and the president has carried on with his speech. I hope that in this term, he will really change, because that is lack of leadership.
Just hold it there. Jingo Francis is in Nakawa Division, but before Jingo comes in, last night there were reports that police arrested some of the Kampala Lord Mayor aspirants who were engaged in election malpractice. The two groups clashed, and we spoke to the deputy spokesperson of Kampala Metropolitan, Luke Owesijide, on what happened. We'll be giving you that a little later. But now, Jingo Francis, where you are in Nakawa Division, paint for us a picture. What is happening? Are people paying attention to the SOPs? You yourself, you have no mask. Are you paying attention? Are you worried about COVID-19, Jingo?
Thank you very much. I just put off my mask purposely to be audible for our viewers to understand, to hear very well what I'm saying. But currently we are in Nakawa Division East, and at a polling station called Kiduka in Mutungo. This particular polling station is where musician Joseph Mayanja, commonly known as Joseph Chameleon, is supposed to vote from here, and we expect him to come here at this particular polling station to vote. As we talk now, currently the voters are still very few. We hope maybe in the near few hours the voters will come up to cast their vote. But as you may be aware, currently we are supposed to vote the Lord Mayor and also the Lord Councillors. The position of the Lord Mayor, there are 11 candidates. I want to take you through the candidates who are vying for this position of the Lord Mayor. We have Innocent Kawoya, Danny Kazibwe for the NRM, Eddie Kalibala Bazira, Elias Lukwago, Benny Rule, Joseph Mayanja, that is the Chameleon, Yakuba Mayanja Musazi, Michael Evans Mugabi, Nagai Nabila Sempala, Isaac Sendagere and Charles James Senkubuge. And those are the candidates vying for the position of the Lord Mayor. Well, we expect, as we talk, the voting is going on, as you can see. When you look at the lines, there are very few people on the line, but we expect that maybe in the near future we are going to see voters standing up. We are we do not see many. We have not experienced any problem here, and the people who are conducting elections here are saying we expect a big turn-up in these elections of the Lord Mayor and the Lord Councillors.
Jingo, but before you go, Jingo, how beefed up is the security where you are in the wake of, you know, the tense that comes with this kind of election, especially for the mayors?
Yeah, there is police deployed here to provide the security, but I've not seen heavy deployments for these elections compared to what happened during the presidential elections. It's a normal police constables who are supposed to guard the voters, people who are voting at different polling stations.
Thank you so much, Jingo Francis, and the others on the ground. They'll be giving us updates as and when they happen. Now, last night there were reports that police arrested some of the Lord Mayor aspirants on grounds of malpractice. Election malpractice. Luke, Deputy Spokesperson of Kampala Metropolitan, Luke Owesijire, earlier on spoke to NTV, and let's have a look at this.
I think social media has it wrong. What happened, according to the few people we've talked to that were actually involved in this scuffle, it was majorly a scuffle. According to Chameleon, who phoned in different commanders and informing them of an alleged malpractice at Global Primary School, Tura Road. He alleges that Lukwago's group was meeting at the primary school and taking ballots. Of course, we had to inform the director of the school, who says that he's not aware of anyone in their side, his school. And the same happened to Lukwago, where he alleges he got information that Chameleon's team was meeting at that school and was involved in malpractice. So both teams met at the school, and a scuffle ensued amongst them, where two people on the side of Lukwago were allegedly beaten and in critical condition. And when the police arrived at the school, we didn't find any sign of alleged malpractice. But we found people who were outside at around midnight, and we were able to arrest 3 people. 2 were later rushed in the hospital. The 3 that were arrested, and it's because we found them on ground, were belonging to Lukwago's group. So the group that allegedly assaulted them, the one for Chameleon, had already taken off. Well, later on, someone came at the police station and also insinuated that they were involved in that, but we decided to let them go, since the group of Lukwago had people in critical condition and they were taken to hospital. But the group of Lukwago opened up a case of assault and malicious damage and robbery, simple robbery, because they alleges that money was taken from them by the group of Chameleon. At the same time, we've informed both groups to come back today at Kawempe police station, where they will give us both full details of what exactly happened. But what we know, it started as a rumor of alleged ballot stuffing, which of course resulted into assault and simple robbery between both of the groups. It was only Lukwago that was found on ground, but we also have Chameleon we have information that Chameleon was also on ground. So basically that is what exactly happened. There is no information, and we are not, there's no information unless it comes out otherwise later, that there was any evidence of ballot stuffing at that school, where everyone was informing us that it was taking place.
Well, police has clarified on that. Now, in Moyo's Scovin Ishete, give us an update of what is happening there. Are people paying attention to the COVID-19? And are the numbers as low as it is here in Kampala? Scovin?
See, the election process has not yet started, but the officials are arranging the polling station. I can also see that there are some people who have already arrived here to cast their vote, including one of the candidates, William Obulejo, who is one of contestants for LC5 seat, and is going to take the incumbent LC5 Williams Anyama, who has been released on NRM ticket. But also of now, today, much as this exercise is going, I cannot see anything related to deployment or patrolling of the streets of Moya town, particularly by the security operatives. I don't know whether this is really anything, but of course they are playing a low profile as far as this election is concerned. But of course, people, the turn up is not like that of the previous election of parliamentary and president election, which took place last week. As far as the voting is concerned, as I said, the Moyo district has a total of 81 polling stations with 45,367 eligible voters. But of course, as of now, I want to see that what is going to take place, the outcome of this election will be only this time around. But of course, the most issues that at hand in Moyo district is that the issues of the market and the issues related to the roads is one of the issues that people are really put their minds into as far as this election is concerned. You know, Moyo is one of the 16 first districts in Uganda before even independent, but it remains in a state of a district. Just failed to get the aspect of municipality, which is based in the perspective of the leadership, but of course for the next 5 years to come, who will be the LC5 of this district will be determined today. Scovin Cheta reporting for NTV live in Moyo town.
Thank you so much. That is Scovin Ishete. Now going to Busia at the border district. We need to know what is happening there. I worry, what is the latest coming from the border area? Are people voting yet? What is the security like given that you're at the border point?
Raymond Edward Ocheng, the FDC flag bearer for the Busia district LC5 seat, has been disqualified by the Electoral Commission. King's disqualification is based on grounds that he failed to raise the required nomination signatures. According to the Electoral Commission, a candidate to be nominated must acquire 50 signatures of registered voters from at least 2/3 of the electoral area. The 50 must append their names, signatures, physical address, and the voter registration numbers. The disqualification of Raymond Edward Ocheng leaves 3 candidates in the race, who are Mugen Stephen Wasike, then NRM flag bearer, Geoffrey Wandera, an independent candidate who is also the district LC5 person, and Paul Boniface Ogutu. Meanwhile, voting has opened across all the 284 polling stations in the district. The voter turnout is, however, expected to be low compared to the last week's presidential and parliamentary polls.
Thank you so much, my colleague Awori from the Busia area. When you listen to this, Salabirete, what is on ground vis-a-vis what should possibly ideally happen in our country? What do you make of it? Because people are not turning up. It's worrying.
Well, as I have said, voter fatigue is real, but also loss of confidence and trust, especially where results are contested. So those 2 elements, plus the third one, you know, many people are registered to vote in their districts. in their areas of origin, and they come back to work in Kampala. So if somebody traveled last week, the public holiday was only for 2 days to enable people to travel and vote. Today is not a public holiday.
Yes.
So people are at work. So you lose those voters that traveled to vote last week and they are back at work. They can't go back. It's not a public holiday, it's not. So these three issues have impact on voter turnout for local council elections. But also going to the preparedness of the electoral commission, I think it's important to note that in the last elections on Thursday, we had about 2,000, no, we had exactly 2,148 election observers as the civil society, domestic observer group. And 11% of the stations we observed are the only stations which opened on time. The rest opened at 9, majority opened at 9. 86% by 10, the voting was taking place, but we have stations. There's one station in Jinja where voting started after midday. Jinja.
That is so sad.
Yeah.
Looking at all this, is the house arrest of Bobi Wine in one or the other going to affect these elections, or has it affected the election in a way, given that he is one of those who have been drumming to tell people, you go vote, go vote, go vote, in the situation where he is, that he's incarcerated in his house? Has it affected?
Well, first of all, I want to condemn the siege around Bobi Wine. It violates his rights and freedoms as a person, violates the rights and freedoms of the people he's been placed under siege with, violates the Constitution, the right to privacy, the right to liberty, and violates all laws and manner of arrest. Our laws do not provide for house arrests, if I may say. You can arrest somebody for suspecting them to commit a crime, but they must be in a legally gazetted detention center. So the security, the combination of police and the army, have turned Bobi Wine's private residence into a police cell. Under what law? Secondly, what crime are they charging him with? Can they charge him and produce him in court? This is the 6th day?
Yes.
Even if it was preventive arrest and somebody is held in a legally gazetted center, within 48 hours, you either charge them in court or set them free. We are now talking of 6 days. Illegal, unconstitutional, really, and this is, you know, it has become a script of this regime, because Besigye was placed under the same conditions in 2016 for 48 days. Besigye's siege lasted 48 days in Kasangati. What has changed is the name and the address. We have Bobi Wine today.
Still in Kasangati, still in My other colleague is joining us from Machindia Division in Konge. That is Walter Mwesige. Walter, what is the picture where you are?
Good morning, Andrew. And correct you a bit, we are now at the Machindia Division headquarters. What you can see is the polling station at the headquarters. And of course, what we have noticed today from the areas that we've been able to move to is that, you know, the turn-up is not that good. We probably hope that people will come out and vote. There is no, you know, reason why the turn-up is very low. Some of the people that we speak to say they were dissatisfied with the presidential election results. So maybe that has an impact, maybe not. We will see as the day, you know, continues to move on. But some places where we moved to, specifically in Konge, the polling materials arrived at about, you know, 7:20. That is 20 minutes late, because voting is supposed to actually start at 7. And for sure that probably will have an impact on, you know, how the entire process will go on. And some of the contestants in the race that we spoke to, for example, in the mayor race, Daniel Kaziwe, commonly known as Ragadi, says
he was supposed to vote at about 9 a.m., but because the turn-up is not so good where he wants to vote from, he is going to extend and have to cast his ballot at about midday. We will be, trying to move around and let you know what is happening, but basically that is what is happening here. The other issues, of course, the Electoral Commission said this time around the biometric machines are not going to have issues as was in the presidential elections. In the polling stations we've visited so far, we have not had anybody complaining about the biometric machines. So which means probably they are, in perfect working condition. The other issue is about the social or physical distancing. Face masks. A couple of people don't have them. It's quite difficult to actually even, maintain the physical distancing. People really want to just come, cast their ballot and leave, despite the, SOPs that were set by the Ministry of Health. That, according to the Ministry of Health, will have an impact on the COVID numbers to come, probably in the next 14 days after people have tested for the illness. One thing that you have to know is that Kampala is a stronghold for the opposition, and as was seen in the last election in 2016, all the positions for the 5 division mayors and the city lord mayor were taken by members of the opposition. We can only wait for the results today to see if that will remain the status quo or it will actually change to have other political parties take up positions here in Kampala city. And Makindye is divided into 2, Makindye West and Makindye East. We've also not seen things like water for washing hands for the voters, as was said by the Electoral Commission. However, some polling assistants, particularly at this polling station, have sanitizers, so probably that suffices for themselves but not for the voters. Andrew, that is what I can say that we've seen so far. We've been up, since about 5 a.m. and the picture is still, quite hazy, but we'll probably take it as the day goes by.
He happens to be at Machinje headquarters, and he'll be giving us the updates as and when they come in. Silas, this brings me back to you. Do you, in one way or the other, feel that the presidential election results and the parliamentary results affected the turnout of the people today?
Yeah, but first of all, I would like to maybe say that Honorable Chagulani should be a bit courteous and offer President Museveni a Medal of Honor for promoting him.
How?
Because he has done the most for NUP by flying him around in helicopters, convoys of tens of armored vehicles and so forth. And right now he's being held like a VIP in his Magera residence. So, I mean, he has raised the profile of NUP like no other person could have ever done.
But it's against human rights to sit. The House arrest cannot.
Yes. I think Bobby Wine has the president to congratulate for all the 61 members of parliament they have so far got. They have swept all the districts. I think that is excellent. On that aside, yes, indeed, the results of the presidential elections was a very big disappointment to many. Because the premise that the NUP candidates had was that Bobby Wine was supposed to be the president. And so they would be able to implement their programs. Having got that sad news that it would not be possible for Bobby Wine to be the president, they were left hanging in the air. And so almost they are left with nothing to fight for.
All parties have said that these were a sham, process. Yesterday, the DP said the same thing. Amoriat from the FDC said that even those going to courts of law are wasting a lot of time. Looking at all the other parties in conjunction with the process, vis-a-vis what's happening today, how big, what magnitude has this affected the turn-up today? Are people lost morale for going to vote today because of that?
Yes, during my campaigns, people were really optimistic, and I mean really optimistic that Bobby Wine was going to win. Had Uganda been Buganda, Bobby Wine could probably have one. Unfortunately, Uganda includes northern, western, and all other areas. So this was a wake-up call for the voters, and they did realize, well, their hopes were not really placed in the right place.
Okay.
Yes.
Sarah Birete, looking at where do we draw the lines between the roles of MPs and the local leaders? There is a confusion here. I've seen people saying that this road, I'm going to work on this road, promising. They're MPs, but they're promising roads. They're MPs, but they're promising hospitals. Where do we draw the roles of LOC5, the local councillors and the mayors, vis-a-vis the MPs and the promises they're making?
Well, Andrew, Article 79 of the Constitution stipulates the functions of MPs to make laws for the promotion of constitutionalism, peace, development, and good governance in Uganda. Protect the Constitution, appropriate the budget, and offer checks and balances under the doctrine of separation of powers. Well, during constitutional amendments and advocacy around it, we discover that not every MP, unfortunately, understands the Constitution. Even when they are given free copies of the Constitution during swearing in, they hardly open even beyond the preamble. They don't read the Constitution. They don't understand the Constitution. We have a number of laws enacted by Parliament that violate provisions of the Constitution. And that is evidence that, that the legislators don't necessarily understand the Constitution. And it's very unfortunate. Because if you have the Constitution as the supreme law of the land, you go ahead to make laws that contradict provisions that are very clear in the Constitution, putting citizens at the burden of going to court and make sure these laws are set aside. Really, this is a whole situation that should not have taken place in the first place. We have, for example, freedom of association, assembly, and expression. We have 18 laws that violate the Constitution. And we are struggling, looking for funds to challenge them and make sure the provisions are declared unconstitutional. We have seen the same happen for Public Order Management Act. You know, and people were told that what you're doing, reenacting a law, a section, that was outlawed by a constitutional court and confirmed by the Supreme Court. They went ahead and then you go ahead and reenact. Yet the Constitution is very clear under Article 92. You cannot legislate to defeat an existing court judgment. So, but they went ahead and did that. And they do it in so many occasions. When we try to tell them, you know, the Constitution is very clear on this. But the political mood in the country, including, of course, most of these laws are enacted by Attorney General. That is a person that is supposed to defend jealously the Constitution. So but you enact laws that violate the Constitution. So MPs, yes, don't understand their roles. Many of them, and because of the nature of our populist politics, populist patronage, you find them on rallies promising roads, even where, you know, promising bridges, even where rivers don't exist. And the citizens, of course, also do not distinguish between the role of the legislature and now the local government councils, which are part of the executive because of decentralization. So the local government councils, yes, should deliver services to the people, together with the central government.
Nice. Well, there you have that is Sarah Birete. I understand my colleague Ivan Kamana Walunyolo is in Entebbe and he's going to give us the very last